Captain Kim Soo watched the view screen with growing unease as the massive alien vessel materialized from hyperspace. The crystalline dreadnought dwarfed his patrol ship, the Rising Dawn, like a mountain overshadowing a pebble. Its surface rippled with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Lieutenant Park Min, his voice tight with tension. It's broadcasting to every human colony simultaneously." The main screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. Elongated features with 6 eyes arranged in a semicircle above a lipless mouth. When it spoke, the words came through perfect translation software, each syllable dripping with condescension. "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Hegemony Council. Your species has expanded beyond acceptable parameters. You have 72 standard hours to withdraw all human presence from systems beyond your origin point and submit to proper guidance. Failure to comply will result in corrective measures." Kim Soo's hands clenched the armrests of his command chair. Behind the ambassador, he could see dozens of alien species, some humanoid, others utterly bizarre. All wore expressions of barely concealed disgust when looking at the human colony's data streams. "Your aggression ends now," the ambassador continued. "Send representatives to Nexus Prime to formalize your surrender. We have brought peace to this galaxy for 3 millennia. We will not allow primitives to disrupt that order." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Through the viewports, Kim Soo could see more ships decloaking, hundreds of them representing technologies humanity had never encountered. Gravity manipulators, quantum shields, weapons that seemed to bend space-time itself. On Earth, Admiral Lee Jun paced the unified command center, his weathered face grim as reports flooded in from across human space. The same ultimatum had reached every colony, every outpost, every exploration vessel. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. "They've done this before," reported Colonel Han B, pulling up intelligence files. 17 species in the past millennium, all now client states of this hegemony. They show overwhelming force, demand submission, then integrate the conquered species into their empire. "And if we refuse?" asked Admiral Lee. "Complete extinction. They don't bluff." But Dr. Yun Da, Chief of Advanced Weapons Research, stepped forward with a thin smile. "Admiral, Project Prometheus is ready. We've been preparing for this day since we first detected alien signals. Every colony ship, every trade vessel, every diplomatic mission, they all carried components and personnel for this contingency." Admiral Lee studied the classified files that appeared on his private screen. Sleeper. Agents positioned throughout known space. Experimental weapons that violated every civilized convention. Resources stockpiled across dozens of systems. Humanity had been playing a longer game than anyone realized. They want a message about what humanity stands for? Admiral Lee's voice carried a cold edge that made his staff shiver. "Let's make sure they receive it loud and clear." Meanwhile, on the frontier, Captain Kim Soo received new orders through encrypted channels. His ship's stealth systems, supposedly still experimental, were fully operational. His crew of 20 included 5 specialists who weren't really crew at all. They were intelligence operatives who had been waiting for this moment. As the hegemony fleet dispersed to monitor human colonies, expecting the usual pattern of negotiation and eventual surrender, they failed to notice one small patrol ship shadowing their movements. Kim Soo's team began mapping hegemony positions, identifying command vessels and tracking supply lines. The aliens had made their first critical error. They assumed humans would behave like every other species they'd conquered. They expected fear, negotiation, and eventual capitulation. They had no experience with a species that viewed extinction as preferable to slavery. Ambassador Cha Na received her orders within hours. She would travel to Nexus Prime aboard the diplomatic vessel, peaceful intent carrying humanity's apparent surrender. Her mission was to buy time and gather intelligence while playing the role of defeated supplicant. "Remember," Admiral Lee told her during their final briefing, "they've won this game 17 times before. They know exactly how broken species behave. Give them what they expect to see: fear, desperation, and ultimate submission. Let them believe they've won." As the peaceful intent prepared for departure, its cargo holds contained something the hegemony's scanners wouldn't detect. Components for humanity's most terrible secret. Dr. Yunda's quantum cascade devices weren't just weapons. They were statements written in the fundamental forces of physics. The hegemony wanted to teach humanity its place in their ordered galaxy. They would learn instead that some species would rather burn the galaxy down than accept chains. The peaceful intent moved through hegemony space with deliberate slowness, its escort of 3 human frigates maintaining formation like defeated guards. Ambassador Chana stood on the bridge watching alien patrol craft shadow their movement, noting their positions and response patterns. "They're treating us exactly like the Valdris species from 600 years ago," reported Commander Osei, reviewing historical files. "Same escort pattern, same monitoring protocols. They're following a script they've used dozens of times." Chana nodded, her expression carefully controlled. The hegemony's arrogance was their weakness. They had become so confident in their methods that they couldn't conceive of a species responding differently. Every conquered race had followed the same pattern: initial resistance, negotiation, acceptance. They expected humanity to break the same way. Light years away, Captain Kim Su's stealth ship continued its shadow mission. His intelligence operatives had identified something crucial. The hegemony's fleet movements followed predictable patterns. Their commanders rotated duties, their supply ships ran scheduled routes, and their communication networks relied on centralized command nodes. "Sir, we've mapped their primary logistics hub," reported Agent Choi Young, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Vorthon 3, approximately 40 light-years from here. It coordinates supply lines for 6-sector fleets." Kim Su studied the tactical data. Defenses? Impressive by their standards. Planetary shields, orbital weapons platforms, automated defense grids, but they're designed to repel conventional attacks. They've never faced quantum cascade technology. Earth Dr. Yunda supervised the final preparations with meticulous care. Each cascade device was a marvel of destructive engineering, a weapon that converted matter directly to energy in an ever-expanding chain reaction. The process would only stop when it encountered specially designed containment fields or ran out of suitable matter. The beautiful irony, Dr. Yoon explained to his team, is that their own defensive systems will accelerate the cascade. Their energy shields are designed to deflect and absorb incoming attacks. When they encounter cascade radiation, they'll channel it directly into their planetary infrastructure. The devices themselves were elegant in their simplicity. No larger than a standard cargo container, they could be hidden aboard any civilian vessel. The hegemony's scanners would detect nothing more threatening than industrial equipment. Admiral Lee Jun coordinated the broader operation from his command center. Across human space, seemingly ordinary merchant vessels had begun moving toward predetermined positions. Colony transport suddenly developed engine problems that stranded them in key systems. Research stations activated experimental equipment that had been disguised as atmospheric processors. "Status report," the Admiral requested. Colonel Han. Bai consulted her displays. "All sleeper assets are in position. Cascade devices have been deployed to 12 target systems. Our people have been waiting for this moment for decades, sir. They're ready." The hegemony, meanwhile, continued their standard intimidation protocol. Their fleets patrolled human space with casual arrogance, broadcasting messages about the benefits of joining their galactic order. They spoke of peace, prosperity, and the wisdom of accepting guidance from their betters. But Captain Park Jun, commanding a disabled cargo hauler near the Altair system, watched hegemony patrols with cold calculation. His ship carried one of Dr. Yoon's cascade devices, and he had been studying the alien fleet formations for weeks. They clustered around their command vessels, presenting perfect targets for weapons they couldn't imagine. On the diplomatic front, Ambassador Chana's ship finally approached Nexus Prime. The massive structure dominated local space, a planet-sized megacity housing trillions of beings from across the hegemony. Its construction represented millennia of technological development and cooperative effort. It was also, as Chana's intelligence briefings had revealed, completely dependent on centralized infrastructure. The hegemony had built their capital as a monument to their power, but monuments could be toppled. Incoming transmission from Nexus Prime Control, reported Communications Officer Lim So. The view screen filled with another alien face, this one belonging to a species with crystalline features and voices that rang like bells. Human vessel, you will dock at Terminal 7. Your delegation will be processed according to surrender protocols. Resistance or deviation from assigned routes will result in immediate destruction. Chana bowed her head in apparent submission. We understand. Humanity comes seeking peace and guidance from our betters. The hegemony officials seemed satisfied by this response. It matched their historical records perfectly. Another primitive species had seen reason when faced with overwhelming force. The integration process would proceed smoothly, as it always did. They had no idea that humanity's real message was already in motion, carried by ordinary-looking ships toward targets the hegemony had never thought to defend against an enemy that should have surrendered by now. Nexus Prime's docking bay stretched beyond the horizon, a testament to engineering that had taken millennia to perfect. Ambassador Chana walked through the processing corridors, flanked by honor guards from 6 different species, all regarding her with the bemused tolerance reserved for conquered primitives. The surrender ceremony would take place in the Grand Yu Assembly, a chamber large enough to hold representatives from every hegemony species. As she was escorted through the complex, Chana's trained eye cataloged defensive positions and structural weaknesses. The hegemony had built for intimidation, not security. Your species shows wisdom in accepting guidance, commented advisor Kethlan, a being whose insectoid features clicked with approval. The transition will be smoother than most. We have experience integrating aggressive races. Chana nodded humbly. We recognize our limitations. Humanity wishes only to learn from those who have achieved such magnificent peace. What she didn't mention was the microscopic transmitter embedded in her diplomatic credentials, broadcasting detailed intelligence back to human space through quantum encrypted channels. Every corridor, every security checkpoint, every structural detail was being recorded and analyzed. Meanwhile, Captain Kim Su's reconnaissance had revealed the true scope of hegemony weakness. Their military doctrine hadn't evolved in centuries. They relied on overwhelming displays of force followed by negotiated surrenders. Their actual combat experience was virtually non-existent. Sir, their fleet positioning is ceremonial, reported Lieutenant Park Min. They're arranged for maximum psychological impact, not tactical effectiveness. Their command ships are exposed, their support vessels clustered in predictable patterns. Kim Su studied the tactical displays with growing excitement. They're fighting the last war, except they haven't fought any wars, just intimidation campaigns against species that had sense enough to surrender. On Earth, Admiral Li Jun received confirmation that all assets were in position. Project Prometheus represented decades of preparation for this exact scenario. Every human colony had been built with hidden defensive capabilities. Every trade route had been mapped for strategic value. Every diplomatic contact had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Dr. Yunda made final adjustments to the cascade timing systems. The beauty of the quantum cascade, he explained to Admiral Li, is that it's essentially unstoppable once initiated. Their shield technology will actually accelerate the reaction. The more energy they pump into their defenses, the faster their worlds will convert to plasma. Civilian casualties? Asked the Admiral. Minimal. We're targeting military installations and industrial centers on 12 worlds. The cascade reactions are precisely calculated. Maximum strategic impact with surgical precision. We're not monsters, Admiral. We're sending a message. The message was simple. Humanity would not be conquered, controlled, or contained. Any species that attempted to enslave them would pay a price beyond imagination. Colonel Han B coordinated the final timing. All teams report ready. Cascade devices are armed and positioned. Sleeper agents have confirmed target acquisition. We can begin on your order, sir. Admiral Li studied the galactic display showing hegemony space. 12 worlds marked in red, military command centers, naval academies, weapon manufacturing plants, and strategic infrastructure hubs, not population centers or civilian targets. Humanity would make its point without becoming genocidal monsters. What's the status of Ambassador Cha's mission? She's about to enter the surrender ceremony. The hegemony leadership is expecting humanity's formal capitulation within the hour. Admiral Lee smiled grimly. They'll get their ceremony, and they'll get their message. Signal all units. Project Prometheus is authorized. Execute on Ambassador Cha's signal. In the Grand Assembly of Nexus Prime, representatives from dozens of species took their seats in a carefully arranged hierarchy. The Hegemony Council occupied elevated positions looking down on the human delegation with barely concealed contempt. This was a familiar ritual, another primitive species accepting their proper place in the galactic order. Ambassador Cha carried a simple datapad containing humanity's surrender document, but hidden within the device's quantum processors was something else entirely. The activation code that would synchronize cascade detonations across 12 star systems. Let the ceremony begin, announced the Prime Counselor, whose species had founded the hegemony 3 millennia ago. Today we welcome another race to civilization. Let this serve as an example to any who might consider resisting the natural order. Chana stepped forward, her expression properly humble and defeated. Around the assembly, alien delegates murmured approvingly. This was how things should be, the strong guiding the weak, order maintained through superior wisdom and technology. Behalf of humanity, Chana began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. I come bearing a message. She activated the datapad, and across 12 star systems, quantum cascade devices began their terrible work. The cascade began on Vorthan III at exactly 1432, Galactic Standard Time. Captain Park Jun's cargo hauler, drifting powerless near the planet's North Polar region, had been ignored by the defensive grid for 3 days. To the automated systems, it was just another piece of space debris. The quantum cascade device activated silently, converting its first atoms of hydrogen into pure energy. The reaction spread at light speed, a sphere of annihilation that consumed everything in its path. Vorthan III's crust became plasma, then its mantle, then its molten core. Within 6 hours, the hegemony's primary military academy had become a miniature star. 11 other worlds experienced similar fates in perfect synchronization. The naval shipyards at Corinth Prime, where the hegemony's dreadnoughts were constructed, vanished in cascading fire. The intelligence center on Belgoth 5, which had monitored 17 conquered species, converted to energy in microseconds. Strategic command bunkers, weapon storage facilities, and military training centers across the galaxy became brilliant points of light visible from neighboring systems. In the Grand Assembly on Nexus Prime, the first alerts began arriving as Ambassador. Chana continued her speech. Humanity has considered your generous offer of guidance, she said, her voice steady as chaos erupted around her. We have prepared our response with great care. The Prime Counselor's 6 eyes focused on multiple displays simultaneously, his composure cracking as reports flooded in. Impossible, he whispered. Vorthan III is gone. The entire planet. How is this possible? We call it a quantum cascade, Chana explained conversationally. It converts matter directly to energy in an ever-expanding reaction. Your shield technology actually accelerates the process, something our scientists found quite elegant. More alerts arrived. Corinth Prime, gone. Belgoth Phi, gone. The hegemony's military infrastructure was being systematically erased from existence. Panic spread through the assembly as representatives realized they were witnessing something unprecedented, a conquered species fighting back. Admiral Lee Jun watched the tactical displays from Earth, his expression grim but satisfied. Each cascade site appeared as a new star on the galactic map, burning testimony to humanity's refusal to kneel. The strikes were precisely calculated, maximum strategic impact with minimal civilian casualties. Status report, he requested. Colonel. Han B consulted her screens. All primary targets eliminated. Cascade reactions proceeding within expected parameters. Estimated time to completion, 4 hours for the larger installations, 2 hours for the smaller bases. Hegemony response? Panic. Their fleet commanders are receiving contradictory orders. Some want to attack our colonies, others are calling for immediate withdrawal. They've never faced coordinated resistance before. Captain Kim Soo, still shadowing hegemony forces, watched their fleet formations collapse into chaos. Ships that had maintained perfect ceremonial positions for weeks suddenly scattered like startled fish. Their commanders were receiving reports of impossible devastation, entire worlds converted to plasma by an enemy that should have surrendered days ago. "Sir, we're intercepting their communications," reported Agent Choi Young. "They're arguing among themselves. Several species are demanding immediate withdrawal from the Alliance. They're calling this the human madness." On Nexus Prime, the EI surrender ceremony had become a crisis management session. Alien officials huddled around communication arrays, their earlier confidence replaced by genuine terror. They had built their entire civilization around the principle that overwhelming force would make any rational species submit. Humanity had just demonstrated that some species preferred mutual destruction to slavery. "You're insane," accused Advisor Kethlan, his insectoid features clicking with agitation. "You've destroyed 12 worlds. Your own colonies are defenseless. Against our retaliation," Ambassador Chana smiled pleasantly. "Are they? We've had decades to prepare for this moment. Every human settlement, every trade route, every diplomatic mission, all part of a larger strategy. You wanted to know what humanity stands for? We don't negotiate with slavers." The Prime Counselor finally found his voice. "You've doomed your species. We have thousands of ships, weapons beyond your comprehension. We will erase every human world from existence." "With what?" Chana asked. "Your primary shipyards are gone. Your military academies are stars. Your command structure is in chaos. Meanwhile, every human colony is armed with cascade devices. Attack any of our worlds and we'll turn 10 of yours to ash." The mathematical reality was becoming clear to the hegemony leadership. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this war, while they had grown soft during centuries of easy victories. The cascade technology was beyond their ability to counter, and humans had proven willing to use it without hesitation. "But the peace," stammered the Prime Counselor. 3 millennia of galactic order. You would destroy all of this for your primitive pride?" "We would destroy everything," Chana confirmed quietly, "before we would serve. That's the message humanity wanted you to receive. We hope it was clear enough." Across the assembly, alien delegates began transmitting desperate messages to their home governments. The human species had just rewritten the rules of galactic politics, with weapons that turned planets into stars, and a willingness to use them without mercy. The age of easy conquest was ending, burned away in the light of 12 artificial suns. 6 months after the Cascade attacks, Admiral Lee Jun stood on the observation deck of the New Dawn, humanity's first post-war dreadnought. Through the viewport, he could see the stellar remnant that had once been Vorthon III, now a brilliant, star-casting light across 4 neighboring systems. The hegemony had sued for peace within 48 hours of the attacks. The coalition that had maintained galactic order for millennia had shattered like crystal, with member species scrambling to negotiate separate treaties with humanity. Fear, it seemed, was a more effective diplomat than centuries of careful alliance building. "Admiral," reported Captain Kim Soo, recently promoted to lead the new Deep Space Reconnaissance Division. "The latest intelligence reports confirm 7 more species have withdrawn from the Hegemony Council. They're seeking individual peace accords." The intelligence was hardly surprising. When faced with a species willing to turn planets into stars, rather than accept subjugation, the hegemony's client races had quickly reevaluated their loyalties. The mathematical certainty of human retaliation outweighed any benefits of continued resistance. Ambassador Chana had returned from Nexus Prime as the architect of humanity's new diplomatic doctrine. Her final speech to the broken assembly had become legendary. "We didn't seek this war, but we finished it. Any species that threatens human freedom will discover that we value liberty more than existence itself. Dr. Yunda's cascade technology remained classified at the highest levels, its secrets known only to a handful of scientists and military leaders. The weapons themselves had been sealed away, their existence confirmed, but their capabilities deliberately mysterious. The uncertainty was more terrifying than knowledge would have been. "The Corvan Republic has requested membership in our confederation," reported Colonel Han B., now serving as Director of Interspecies Relations. "They're offering full technological exchange and mutual defense agreements." Admiral Lee nodded approvingly. The Corvan had been one of the hegemony's oldest client species, but their leaders had proven pragmatic enough to recognize changing galactic realities. Freedom, it turned out, was an attractive alternative to supervised servitude. What about the others? The Zilani Empire is maintaining neutrality, but has established full diplomatic relations. The Thorin Collective is requesting human advisors to help establish democratic institutions. Even some of the core hegemony species are sending envoys. The transformation had been remarkable. 3 millennia of enforced peace had created a galaxy of species that had forgotten how to truly govern themselves. When the hegemony's authority collapsed, many worlds discovered they preferred the human model of voluntary cooperation to the alien system of imposed order. Captain Park Jun, now commanding the defense grid at Alpha Centauri, filed his weekly report on the Cascade Monument orbiting the former site of Belgoth 5. The artificial star served as both warning and promise, a reminder that humanity would defend its freedom with any weapon necessary, but also a beacon of hope for species seeking liberation from ancient tyrannies. The human colonies had flourished in the new galactic environment. Trade flowed freely between species that had been prevented from direct contact for centuries. Scientific cooperation replaced careful isolation. Cultural exchange blossomed as civilizations discovered the benefits of diversity over enforced uniformity. On Nexus Prime, the remaining Hegemony Council struggled to maintain relevance in a galaxy that had moved beyond their control. Their greatest success, 3 millennia of peace, had become their fatal weakness. They had created a stable order, but stability without freedom was just another form of death. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Lim. "So, from the New Dawn's bridge, we're receiving a transmission from the frontier. Scout ships have detected signals from unexplored regions beyond hegemony space. New species potentially hostile." Admiral Lee smiled grimly. "Any species that encounters humanity now will find us very different from the peaceful explorers who first met the hegemony. They'll meet people who have learned that peace is only possible between equals." The Cascade sites remained visible across dozens of light years. 12 artificial stars that had rewritten galactic politics through the simple application of overwhelming force. Some species called them monuments to human brutality. Others saw them as beacons of liberation. On a frontier world called New Sol, children played in the light of distant stars while their parents worked to build a free society. The children didn't yet know the history of those lights, but they would learn. They would understand that freedom required eternal vigilance and occasional violence. The galaxy had wanted to send humanity a message about knowing their place in the cosmic order. Instead, they had received a demonstration that some species would burn down civilization itself before accepting chains. In the end, the message had been received perfectly. Humanity didn't negotiate with slavers, didn't compromise with tyrants, and didn't kneel to anyone. They had written their response in fire across the stars themselves, and the galaxy would remember those words for millennia to come.